Hey guys, let's talk about tonight's episode of Arrow. And first off, let me just say that the fight scenes on this show are awesome. And not only am I talking about the ones with Oliver as Arrow, I'm talking about Sarah, and she is just equally as badass. And then when she's up against the Huntress, hello, like those two had some really good fight scenes in this episode, and I loved every second of it. So of course the Huntress is returned because she wants to put an end to her mob boss father who killed her husband. And she's hell-bent against having revenge, and she's doing everything she can to try and hunt him down. And when they find out that when she finds out that he's in Starling City, she's on the first train, plane, automobile back to try to get revenge. And so that's pretty much how this episode plays out. She gets lured to this courtroom, and then they end up taking a bunch of people hostage. And of course, Sarah and Laurel end up getting in the mix. And then Sarah is fighting to protect her sister. And this leads me to my biggest eye roll of the episode. I mean, guys, I complain about this all the time, and I know I need to stop. But that scene when Sarah goes to get Laurel and she's like, "Are you one of the good guys?" I was like, "Oh my God, it's your sister." Like, come on. I mean, they don't even try to hide the costume that well. And it's like, really? It's just so ridiculous. So anyways, they have this great little heart to heart where she's, using this voice changer, and she's trying to say, "Oh, my sister was saying all this about me not being ready to come back to court," and she was about to take a drink, and then she's all like, "Prove to me that you're strong enough," and then she does, and it's just kind of like, okay, fine, whatever. Let the show go there. I'm willing to go there. But then later on in the episode, of course, Laurel gets taken hostage by the Huntress, and she has a good conversation with her, which she says that once something or someone has died or something like that, emotional in your life, a dark cloud sort of takes over and it never goes away. And we sort of see that at the end of the episode when Laurel pretty much goes back to the district attorney's office and says, "I'm getting my job back, or else I'm going to let everybody know that the other district attorney was responsible for the hostage taking in the first place." So, she's stepping up, she's showing some darker side to herself, and we'll see how long that plays out and what that's going to mean for the character of Laurel. We also had some serious flashbacks in this episode, and it really kind of showed Sarah focusing on her transforming into this ruthless person. And of course, Slade was taking his revenge out on Oliver, and he was beating him, and he was shooting him with like a stun gun. And the guy who was supposed to be steering the boat couldn't get, the engine was shot. So he pretty much, gets rid of him, and he tells Sarah that he wants a trade and he better bring over this guy who can fix the engine so that they can get out of there. And he's basically trying to play negotiator with Sarah, and she's like, first she's not wanting to do it, but then afterwards she ends up knocking the guy out and tying him up, and they're pretty much going to it looks like they're going to at least hand him over so that he can get the boat going. Now, whether that all plays out the way that Slade wants it to is another story. So Oliver is just being tortured, and Slade is doing whatever he can to punish Oliver for obviously choosing Sarah over Shadow. And he even puts like this tattoo on his back as a reminder for Oliver for the rest of his life what he did and the decision he made to save Sarah's life and not Shadow. So Slade is, very upset. And he's making Oliver pay for everything that he did to, unfortunately, choose Sarah over Shadow. So we had some other stuff going on with Roy, and of course Oliver was, still trying to train him, getting him to control his powers. And there's a part in the episode where, it looks like he can't control himself and he gets stabbed in the hand, and Oliver has to kind of like really, take control of the situation before Roy goes crazy. And after that happens, Oliver's like, "Listen, you need to break up with Thea because the only thing that snapped you out of that like roid rage, I guess you could say, was when I mentioned her name." And he's like, "You can't take her out of my life because, she's basically like this calming place for me." But then later on in the episode, Roy realizes that he could lose it at any moment. So he decides he's going to break up with Thea. And of course, Thea's like, what's wrong with you? You're having these highs and these lows. Obviously, something's going on, and I'm not going to leave you. And then later on, he is making out with this girl, obviously to upset her so that she will break up with him and it'll be done. But obviously, he's doing it because he loves her and not because he really wants to hook up with some other random girl. So Thea's, of course, upset. She goes to Oliver and says, you're the only one who's being honest in my life. She even says, like, don't you think that mom is still holding back some secrets? And obviously she is, because she's holding back the fact that Malcolm Merlin is Thea's father. And I don't know when that bombshell is going to drop, but should be interesting. I also kind of liked in this episode that Sarah was a little bit jealous of the Huntress and the fact that Oliver dated her before. So I thought there was a couple cute scenes in there. And Felicity, again, just being a team player in this episode was great. I'm glad that they have calmed down the jealousy of Felicity with Oliver and Sarah. And they've just allowed these women to be powerful women that can work together, and it's not about her rolling her eyes or her being jealous of the relationship that Oliver and Sarah have together. So I like that they're doing that with them. And Felicity was just very active in this episode, but she was playing her role and it was good. Of course, all we saw of Slade in this episode was in the flashbacks until the very end of the episode when he pulls up in his town car in front of Thea and he basically tells her to get in the car and she's like, oh, hi, Mr. Wilson. He's like, oh, call me Slade. And the door closes and you're like, uh-oh. And one of the first things Oliver said at the very beginning of the episode when he was with Sarah was like, thank you for coming with me and protect, watching over my dad. And he said, as long as Slade is out there, none of our family is safe. And so, of course, they end the episode with Thea getting into the car with Slade. And she's obviously very emotional right now because of what just happened with Roy. So I don't know how that's going to play out. It should be interesting. Again, I'm loving all of the fighting, the choreography, just like the shooting. I know that they don't have a massive budget on this show, so what they do with these fight scenes is pretty remarkable. And kudos to the team that, has gotten all of these actors to really do a lot of their own stunts and a lot of the fighting scenes. And then obviously they get doubles to come in when they need it. But really good job. Kudos to the team. All right, guys, I really did enjoy this episode. Let me know what you thought. Oh, and at the end, of course, the Huntress is... You're thinking at first she's upset because her dad's dead. So after all these moments when she could have killed her dad and something interrupts them, finally at the end, after she has another awesome fighting scene with Sarah, she looks over and she sees that her dad is dead on the ground. And obviously he was shot by one of the stray bullets when the cops came out. And, she's upset and you're thinking, girl, you just spent this whole entire episode trying to kill your dad. And then she's upset because she should have been the one to do it. And so it's pretty funny. I mean, not funny, but, ultimately she wanted to be the one to end her dad. Wow. And then, of course, she has another good scene with Oliver in the prison. And he was like, I thought I could change you, but I can't. And, there she goes. She's off. And I'm sure... this isn't the last we're going to see of her. Who knows? Maybe she'll become part of this Suicide Squad. She'll get sent to prison and Amanda Waller will snap her up and she'll become part of the Suicide Squad in future episodes. Can't wait to see that. Okay, guys, now that is the end of my review. I did enjoy this episode. Let me know what you thought. Leave a comment down below. Again, the only thing that drives me crazy, and it's just me trying to wrap my brain around it, is just, literally, Laurel and Sarah were an inch away from each other, and she had no idea it was her sister. I mean, she even has the little, what do you call these things, the cleft in her chin? Come on. Come on. Whatever. Okay, guys, I'll see you next week. Bye.